I'm done fighting for us.
Kelly, wait. Please don't leave.
I'm standing in the hallway of the penthouse we shared for 18 months, my suitcase at my feet, and I can feel my heart breaking in real time. But I say it anyway. I have to say it. I'm done fighting for us. The words come out steadier than I expected. Calm, final, like I've been practicing them in my head for weeks, because I have been. He's standing in the middle of the living room, frozen, his phone still in his hand from whatever work call he just finished. His name is Yoon Seojun, not the kind of name you hear every day. Refined, old money, the kind of name that comes with expectations I didn't understand until it was too late. He looks at me like he's waiting for the punchline, like this is another conversation we'll have where I'll express my feelings, he'll apologize, and we'll move on. But I don't say anything else, I just pick up my suitcase. Kelly, wait. I don't wait, I walk to the door, my hand on the handle, and for a second I think he's going to say something that will change everything. Something that will make me stay, but he doesn't. He just stands there, and I realize he doesn't know what to say because he never thought I'd actually leave. I open the door, I walk out, the door clicks shut behind me. And that's it. That's the moment everything ends. But what he doesn't know, what he won't understand for a long time, is that this moment didn't just happen tonight. This moment has been building for 2 years, and the next 2 years of his life will be spent trying to undo it, trying to become the man I needed him to be, except I won't be there to see it. Hey, if you're new here, welcome back to the channel. If you've been rocking with me, you already know what kind of stories we tell here, real, raw, emotional. This one right here, it's about self-worth, timing, and what happens when one person is doing all the work in a relationship. If that resonates, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and comment where you're watching from. I love seeing where y'all are in the world. This story is going to hurt a little, but I promise it teaches a lesson we all need to hear. Alright, let's get into it. 2 years before I walked out, I met Seojun at a gallery opening in Manhattan. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was filling in for my coworker who had the flu, and I was exhausted from working a double shift at the museum earlier that day. I almost didn't go, but my boss insisted, said it would be good for me to network, so I threw on a black dress, tied my locks up, and showed up. The gallery was packed with people who looked like they belonged there. Old money, new money, the kind of people who bought art the way I bought groceries. I was standing near a sculpture pretending to be deeply interested in it when I heard a voice next to me. "You don't like it." I turned, and there he was. Tall, dark hair styled perfectly, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my rent, but it wasn't the looks or the clothes that caught me. It was the way he was looking at the sculpture, like he was genuinely curious what I thought. "I didn't say that," I said. "You didn't have to, your face said it." I smiled despite myself. "Okay, fine, I think it's trying too hard." He laughed, a real laugh, not polite. I thought I was the only one. We ended up talking for over an hour. About art, about the city, about the pressure of living up to other people's expectations. He told me he'd been dragged to the event by a business associate, that he found most of these gatherings insufferable. I told him I was only there because my coworker got sick and I drew the short straw. "So we're both here against our will," he said. "Looks like it. Then we should at least make it worth it. Have you eaten?" I hadn't, and that's how our first date happened. We left the gallery and walked to a small Korean restaurant in Koreatown, not fancy, just good. He told me it reminded him of home, that his grandmother used to make kimchi jjigae exactly like this. I watched him relax as we ate, saw the version of him that existed outside of the expectations. He asked me about my work at the museum, about what made me fall in love with art history. He listened when I talked, leaning forward like every word mattered. By the end of the night, I knew I was in trouble, the good kind. He asked if he could see me again. I said yes without hesitation. The first 3 months were everything I didn't know I needed. He'd show up at my apartment after my late shifts with takeout and that smile that made my stomach flip. We'd sit on my tiny balcony, the city humming below us, and talk until the sky turned pink. He'd ask me about my day, about my dreams, about the books I was reading and the paintings I loved. He told me about his life too. About growing up as the eldest son of the Yoon family, about the weight of expectations that had been placed on his shoulders since birth. About moving to New York 3 years ago to oversee the American operations of his family's financial empire and how lonely it had been. "Everyone here wants something from me," he said one night. Business connections, social status, access to my family's money, but you didn't even know who I was when we met. Should I have? I asked. Most people in that room did. I kissed him then on my balcony under the stars, and I felt like maybe we could be each other's safe place, away from the world and its demands. I fell in love with him in those quiet moments, when he'd read beside me on lazy Sundays, when he'd remember how I took my coffee, when he'd text me in the middle of his workday just to say he was thinking of me. But the world has a way of creeping in. The first crack came about 3 months in, right after I got promoted to assistant curator at the museum. It was a huge deal for me. I'd been working toward it for 2 years, putting in extra hours, taking on projects no one else wanted. When my boss told me I got it, I cried in her office. I called Siajan immediately. I got it, I said, unable to keep the excitement out of my voice. Got what? The promotion, assistant curator. Kelly, that's amazing, I'm so proud of you. I know it's not a big fancy title like what you're used to, but... Hey, don't do that, this is huge, we're celebrating, I'm taking you to Maria tonight, 7 o'clock, wear something nice. I spent the rest of the afternoon floating. I left work early, went home, and took my time getting ready. I wore this burgundy dress I'd been saving for a special occasion, did my makeup, wore the perfume he said he loved. 7 o'clock came, I was ready. I texted him a photo, something playful. He didn't respond right away, but I didn't think anything of it. He was probably in a meeting. 7:15 I called, it went to voicemail. 7:30 I called the restaurant to confirm our reservation, it was still there. 7:45 he finally called back. Kelly, I'm so sorry, my father called right as I was about to leave, it's about the Singapore merger, I have to take this call, it's... How long? I asked, my voice tight. I don't know, maybe an hour, can you push the reservation back? I called Maria, they moved us to 8:30. I waited. 8 o'clock, nothing. 8:30 came and went. By 9, I'd blown out the candles I'd lit in my apartment, changed out of the dress. I was sitting on my couch in sweats, staring at my phone. He called at 9:20. Kelly, I'm so sorry, this call is running longer than I thought, I can still come over. We can order in, open some wine, celebrate properly. I wanted to scream, to tell him that this was exactly the kind of thing that would happen over and over if I let it. But I didn't, because he sounded tired. He'd said he was proud of me, because I told myself it was one time. Okay, I said quietly, just come over when you can. He showed up at 10 with flowers, peonies, my favorite, and a bottle of expensive champagne. He apologized again, held me, told me how incredible I was. We ate Thai food on my couch and he asked me all about the promotion, what projects I'd be working on, about my new responsibilities. And I let it go because this was just part of dating someone with his kind of life, right? Important calls, family business, things I couldn't possibly understand. Except it wasn't just one time. 2 weeks later, we had plans to go to the theater. I'd bought tickets months in advance to see a production I'd been dying to see. He knew how much I loved theater. I'd talked about it constantly. The day of the show, he texted me at 3 in the afternoon. Something came up with the board, I might be a little late, head there without me, I'll meet you. I stood outside the theater in my coat, checking my phone every 30 seconds. The lights flickered, signaling it was time to go in. I called him, no answer, I texted, nothing. I went inside alone, sat in my seat with the empty one next to me, watched the show with this hollow feeling in my chest. He called during intermission. Kelly, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to make it. This meeting is running long and I can't step away. I'll make it up to you, I promise. You said you'd be here. I know, I'm sorry, we'll go again, I'll buy tickets to whatever you want. But we never went again, because there was always something else. Always another meeting, another call, another emergency that was more important than me. I started to notice the pattern. Plans canceled last minute, dates cut short, conversations interrupted by his phone, and every time he'd apologize, promise to do better, and I'd believe him. Because I loved him, and because I thought if I was patient enough, understanding enough, if I just gave him a little more time, things would balance out. They never did. I became the one who did all the work. I'd text him good morning every day, ask about his meetings, his day, his stress levels. I'd send him articles I thought he'd find interesting. I'd make plans and then keep them flexible just in case he had to cancel. I'd rearrange my entire schedule around the possibility of seeing him. And he'd respond, but barely, short texts, quick calls, just enough to keep me holding on. My friends started to notice. Janelle was the first one to say something. We were out for brunch one Sunday, and I was checking my phone for the third time in 10 minutes. "Is he coming?" she asked. "He said he'd try. He has a call with Soul this morning, but it should be done by noon." "Kelly." I looked up. She had that expression, the one that meant she was about to say something I didn't want to hear. "What? How many times has he canceled on you this month?" "I don't know, a few times. He's busy." "How many times have you canceled on him?" "That's different." "Is it?" I didn't answer because we both knew it wasn't. "I'm just saying," Janelle continued, "you're putting in all this effort, and what's he doing? Texting you back when it's convenient, showing up when he has time." "He's running a company, Janelle. It's not the same as my job. He has actual responsibilities." "And you don't." "That's not what I meant." "I know what you meant, but Kelly, you matter too. Your time matters, your feelings matter, and if he can't see that, then maybe." "Don't," I said, cutting her off. "Please, I know you're trying to help, but I love him, and he loves me. We're just going through a busy phase." Janelle didn't push it, but I could see it in her eyes. She didn't believe me, and honestly, I wasn't sure I believed myself. My 27th birthday was the moment everything changed, even though I didn't realize it at the time. Siajan had promised he'd be there. We'd planned a small dinner with my closest friends at this restaurant in the West Village I'd been wanting to try, nothing big or fancy, just the people I loved most, good food, and him. He'd promised. 3 days before my birthday, he told me he had to fly to Seoul for an emergency board meeting. "I'll be back in time," he said. "I promise, Kelly, I wouldn't miss your birthday." I wanted to believe him, I needed to believe him, so I kept the reservation. I told my friends he was coming. I bought a dress I knew he'd love, emerald green, his favorite color, on me. The morning of my birthday, I woke up to a text. "Happy birthday, beautiful, I'm boarding my flight now, I'll see you tonight." I smiled. He was coming, he kept his promise. I spent the day getting ready, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Maybe this was the turning point. Maybe this was when things would start to get better. I got to the restaurant early. My friends trickled in, hugging me, handing me gifts, laughing. We ordered drinks and waited. 7 o'clock, our reservation time, no Siajan. I texted him, "We're here, where are you?" No response. 7:30, I called voicemail. By 8, my friends were exchanging looks, the kind of looks that said they felt sorry for me. "I'm sure he's just stuck in traffic," I said, even though I knew that wasn't true. "Maybe his flight was delayed," my friend Tasha offered. I nodded, checking my phone again. Nothing. We ordered food, ate. My friends tried to keep the conversation going, to keep things light. But there was this tension in the air, this unspoken acknowledgement that he wasn't coming. At 9:30, the flowers arrived. A waiter brought them over, this enormous bouquet of roses, the kind that costs hundreds of dollars. The card was tucked inside. "Happy birthday, I'm so sorry, I'll make it up to you, S." I stared at the card, at the roses, at my friends' pitying faces. And something cracked inside me. I smiled, I thanked the waiter, I put the card in my purse and pretended like everything was fine. But it wasn't fine. That night, after my friends dropped me off, I sat in my apartment surrounded by roses and unopened gifts, and I cried. Not because he missed my birthday, but because I'd spent the entire day believing he'd show up, and he never even considered that he wouldn't. He called the next morning. "Kelly, I'm so sorry, the meeting ran late and I missed my flight. I tried to get on another one, but everything was booked. I feel terrible." "It's fine," I said. "It's not fine, I know it's not. Let me make it up to you. I'll take you anywhere you want to go, Paris, Tokyo, wherever." "I don't want a trip, Siajan, I just wanted you to be there." "I know, and I'm sorry, I really am." He sounded sorry, he always sounded sorry, but sorry doesn't mean anything if nothing changes. A week later, I brought up therapy. We were at his place, eating takeout in front of the TV. The silence between us felt heavier than usual. "Do you think we should talk to someone?" I asked. He looked over at me confused. "What do you mean?" "Like a therapist for couples." He actually laughed, not mean, just confused. "Why would we need therapy?" "Because I feel like we're disconnecting, like we're not on the same page anymore." "Kelly, we're fine. I've just been really busy lately. Things will calm down after this quarter closes." "You always say that things will calm down, but they never do." He put down his food, giving me his full attention for the first time in weeks. "What do you want me to do? Quit my job?" "No, I just want you to try to make time for us, to prioritize this relationship the way I do." "I am trying." "Are you?" The question hung in the air between us. He didn't answer right away, and in that silence I had my answer. "I don't think we need therapy," he finally said. "We just need to get through this busy period. It's temporary." I didn't bring it up again. What was the point? He'd already decided we didn't have a problem, or maybe he just didn't think the problem was worth fixing. Meeting his family was the final nail in a coffin I didn't even know was being built. He'd been avoiding it for months. Every time I suggested it, he'd have an excuse. They were in Korea, they were busy, the timing wasn't right. But then his mother came to New York for some charity gala and he couldn't put it off anymore. I spent days preparing. I bought a new dress, conservative and elegant, navy blue, high neckline, nothing too flashy. I researched Korean etiquette. I practiced polite small talk in my head. I wanted to make a good impression. I wanted them to see what their son saw in me. The dinner was at Le Bernardin, one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. His mother and father were already seated when we arrived. His mother, elegant, cold, perfect posture, barely smiled when Seojin introduced us. "Mother, father, this is Kelly. Kelly, these are my parents." I bowed slightly the way I'd practiced. "It's an honor to meet you both." His mother's eyes swept over me, taking in every detail. Her smile was polite but didn't reach her eyes. "How lovely, please sit." Dinner was excruciating. His mother asked questions disguised as polite conversation. Where did I grow up? What do my parents do? Where did I go to school? Each answer I gave felt like it was being weighed and measured and found wanting. "So you work at a museum," she said, in that tone that made it sound like I'd said I worked at a grocery store. "Yes, I'm an assistant curator. I focus on contemporary art." "How interesting, that must be fulfilling." "It is, I love what I do." "And the pay, it must be difficult living in New York on a museum salary." Seojin shifted uncomfortably beside me, but he didn't say anything. "I manage," I said, keeping my voice pleasant. "I'm sure you do." She took a sip of her wine. Seojin has always been drawn to creative types. The way she said it, like I was a phase, a hobby. His father barely spoke to me at all. He talked business with Seojin, discussing the Singapore expansion, quarterly projections, board politics. I might as well have not been there. At one point his mother asked, "Do you speak Korean?" "No, I don't, but I've been thinking about learning." That would be wise. If this is to be a serious relationship, you'll need to communicate with the family. If this is to be serious, like it was still a question. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. His parents paid for everything, thanked me politely for coming, and left in their town car. In the Uber back to his place, I asked, "Why didn't you say anything?" "About what?" "About the way your mother was talking to me." "She was just asking questions." "She was being dismissive, condescending." "You're being too sensitive." I turned to look out the window. I didn't trust myself to respond, because if I did, I would say things I couldn't take back. When we got to his apartment, he tried to touch me, to kiss me, like nothing had happened, like I hadn't just spent 2 hours being judged and found lacking by his family while he sat there and let it happen. I pulled away. "I'm tired, I'm going home." "Kelly, come on, don't be like this." "Like what?" "Upset over nothing." "It wasn't nothing, Seojin. My mother is traditional, she's like that with everyone." "But I'm not everyone, I'm your girlfriend, and you didn't defend me, you didn't stand up for me, you just sat there." "What did you want me to do? Argue with my mother in the middle of a restaurant?" "I wanted you to show her that I matter, that we matter." He sighed, that same tired sigh I'd heard 100 times before. "You do matter, she'll warm up eventually, she just needs time." But I was done waiting for people to see my worth. Done waiting for him to choose me. I called an Uber and went home. That night was the beginning of the end, even though it would take me months to fully walk away. After that dinner, something changed in me. I stopped trying so hard, stopped initiating plans, stopped asking him to come to my events, stopped inviting him into my world. If he wanted to see me, he could ask. He didn't notice. Weeks went by, I'd go days without hearing from him beyond a thinking of you text. He'd cancel plans and I wouldn't bother rescheduling. He'd ask if I was okay and I'd say I was fine. I wasn't fine, but I was tired of explaining it. My friends saw the change. "You're pulling away," Janelle said one night over drinks. "I'm just tired of fighting." Fighting for what? For him to see me, to choose me, to care as much as I do. Then stop fighting. I have. She looked at me and I saw the concern in her eyes. "Kelly, you know you deserve better than this, right?" "I know." "Then why are you still with him?" I didn't have an answer. Or maybe I did and I just didn't want to say it out loud. Because leaving him meant admitting that I'd wasted 2 years on someone who was never going to give me what I needed. And that hurt worse than staying. But staying was killing me. The final conversation we had before I left wasn't even a fight. It was worse, it was resignation. We were at his place. He'd actually had a free evening and I'd agreed to come over. We ordered sushi, turned on a movie neither of us was watching. The silence between us felt like a living thing. Halfway through the movie, I paused it. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you still want this, us?" He looked genuinely confused. "Of course I do, why are you asking?" "Because I feel like I'm the only one fighting for this relationship, like I'm the only one who cares if we survive." "That's not true." "Isn't it? When's the last time you initiated a date? When's the last time you asked about my life? When's the last time you chose me over work?" "That's not fair, you know how demanding my job is." "I do, but that's not an excuse. Plenty of people have demanding jobs and still manage to show up for the people they love." "I'm here, aren't I?" "Physically, yeah, but where are you emotionally? Because I feel like I'm in this alone." He was quiet for a moment, then he said, "What do you want me to do, Kelly?" "I want you to try to show up. I want you to care as much as I do." "I do care." "Then prove it." He didn't say anything, and in that silence I got my answer. When things calmed down, he started. "They're never going to calm down," I interrupted. "This is your life, this is who you are, and I can't keep waiting for you to make space for me." "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm tired, I'm exhausted. I've been carrying this relationship by myself for months and I can't do it anymore." "Kelly, I love you, I do, but I can't love you more than I love myself, and staying in this relationship is killing me." He reached for my hand. "Let's take a break then, some space, but don't give up on us." I pulled my hand away. "I'm not giving up, I'm choosing myself." I stood up, grabbed my bag and left. But that wasn't the real goodbye, that came 2 weeks later. I spent those 2 weeks thinking, processing, crying in my apartment, talking to Janelle and Tasha until they were probably sick of hearing about it, and I came to a realization. I couldn't stay, not because I didn't love him, but because loving him was costing me myself. So I found an apartment in Brooklyn, something small, affordable, mine. I signed the lease without telling him. And slowly, over the course of a week, I moved my things out of his place while he was at work. The day I decided to tell him, I texted him, "I need to talk when you get home." He came home at 8. I was standing in the hallway with my suitcase and he knew immediately. "Kelly, what's going on?" "I'm leaving." "What do you mean you're leaving?" "I can't do this anymore. I can't be in a relationship where I'm the only one trying." "We talked about this, we're taking space." "No, Siajan, I'm done. I'm not taking space, I'm leaving." His face went pale. "Kelly, please don't do this, we can fix this." "You've been saying that for months, nothing changes." "I'll change, I promise, just give me another chance." "How many chances am I supposed to give you? How many times am I supposed to accept the bare minimum and call it enough?" "I love you." "I know you do, but love isn't enough. Not when you can't show up. Not when you can't prioritize me, not when I feel like I'm begging you to care." "I do care." Then why didn't you prove it when it mattered? He didn't have an answer, and I was done waiting for one. I'm done fighting for us, I said. Those words hung in the air, final, heavy. I picked up my suitcase and walked to the door. My hand was on the handle when he spoke. Kelly, please. I turned back, one last look at the man I'd loved for 2 years, the man who'd made me feel seen and invisible in equal measure. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said softly. I really do, but I can't be the one waiting around while you figure it out. And then I left. The door closed behind me with a soft click and I walked down the hallway to the elevator. My vision was blurred with tears, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. In the elevator, I stared at my reflection in the mirrored walls. I looked exhausted, heartbroken, but also something else. Free. The first month after I left was the hardest month of my life. Siajan called every day. I didn't answer. He texted long messages, paragraphs about how he understood now, how he'd been taking me for granted, how he'd do better if I gave him another chance. I read them, every single one, but I didn't respond. Because I knew that if I responded, I'd get sucked back in. He'd say all the right things, I'd believe him, we'd try again, and nothing would change. He showed up at my new apartment twice. The first time was 3 days after I left. I was unpacking boxes when I heard the knock. I looked through the peephole and saw him standing there looking more disheveled than I'd ever seen him. No suit jacket, tie loose, hair messy. I didn't open the door. He knocked again. Kelly, I know you're there, please just talk to me. I stood on the other side of the door, my hand pressed against it, tears streaming down my face, but I didn't open it. Kelly, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I didn't see what I had until I lost it. Please give me another chance, I'll do better, I promise I'll do better. The same promises he'd made before. Please, he said again, his voice breaking, I love you. I closed my eyes, pressed my forehead against the door. But I didn't open it. After 10 minutes, I heard him slide something under the door. Then his footsteps retreating down the hallway. I waited until I was sure he was gone before I picked it up. It was a letter, handwritten on his personal stationery. Kelly, I don't know how to do this without you. I don't know who I am when I'm not trying to live up to everyone else's expectations. You were the only person who made me feel like I could just be myself, and I ruined it. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I hurt you. I know I took you for granted, but I'm asking anyway, please let me prove to you that I can change. I love you. I'll always love you. S. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer, then I went back to unpacking. The second time he showed up was 2 weeks later. I'd just gotten home from work, still in my museum uniform, when I saw him sitting on the steps outside my building. He stood when he saw me. I'm not here to pressure you, I just wanted to see you, to know that you're okay. I'm okay, I said, my keys clutched in my hand. Are you happy? The question caught me off guard. I'm getting there. He nodded. Good, that's all I wanted to know. We stood there in awkward silence. He looked thinner, tired, there were dark circles under his eyes. You should go, I said softly. I know, but he didn't move. Can I ask you one thing? What? Was I really that bad? Did I really fail you that much? I looked at him, at the genuine confusion and hurt on his face, and I realized he still didn't get it. It wasn't about being bad, I said. It was about being absent. You were there, but you weren't present, and I couldn't keep fighting for both of us. If I'd known. I told you multiple times, but you didn't hear me until I left. He flinched like I'd hit him. You're right, I didn't, and I hate myself for it. I don't want you to hate yourself, I just want you to understand. I'm trying. Then try for your next relationship, because this one is over. I walked past him into my building. I didn't look back, but I heard him standing there on the steps and I knew he was crying. It almost broke me. Almost. But I kept walking. Weeks turned into months. I stopped checking my phone, hopping to see his name. I stopped writing responses to him in my head. I started building a life that didn't revolve around waiting for someone to choose me. I threw myself into work. I took on extra projects. I stayed late organizing exhibitions. I volunteered for the educational programs. My boss noticed. You've been on fire lately, she said one afternoon. Just trying to grow, I said. Well, it's working, keep it up. I made new friends, started going to art openings again, not for work but for myself. I joined a book club, started painting again, something I'd given up when I was too busy trying to save my relationship. Janelle watched the transformation with quiet pride. "You're different," she said one night over wine. "Different how?" "Lighter, like you've been carrying something heavy and you finally put it down." "I was carrying something heavy." "I know, I'm glad you let it go." "Me too." I went on a few dates, nothing serious. A guy I met at a gallery opening who talked too much about himself. A lawyer friend of a friend set me up with who was nice but boring. A musician who was charming but unreliable. None of them were Siajan. But that was okay because I wasn't looking for Siajan. I was looking for someone who would show up, someone who would choose me, someone who would meet me halfway. And until I found that person, I was fine being alone. Through mutual friends, I heard pieces about what Siajan was doing, that he'd stopped going out, that he'd turned down social invitations, that he seemed different somehow, quieter, less present at work events. I tried not to care, tried not to let it affect me. But late at night, when my apartment was quiet and I couldn't sleep, I thought about him, wondered if he was okay, if he really was changing, or if this was just another version of the same person. 6 months after I left, Janelle told me something that stopped me in my tracks. We were at brunch and she was scrolling through her phone when she looked up at me with an odd expression. "What?" I asked. "You remember my friend Peter? The one who works in finance?" "Yeah, he ran into Siajan last week." My stomach tightened. "Okay." "He said Siajan's been going to therapy." I set down my fork. "What?" "Yeah, Peter said they were at the same building and Siajan mentioned he's been seeing a therapist once a week for the last few months." I didn't know what to say. Siajan didn't believe in therapy. He'd laughed when I suggested it, said we didn't need it, that it was for people with real problems. "Kelly, I heard you. How do you feel about that?" "I don't know, good for him, I guess." But I did know how I felt. Part of me was glad he was getting help. Part of me was angry that it took losing me for him to take it seriously. And part of me wondered if it was real or if this was just another thing he was doing to try to win me back. "Are you going to reach out to him?" Janelle asked carefully. "No. Kelly. I'm happy for him, really, but that doesn't change anything. He's doing what he should have done when we were together. I'm not going to pat him on the back for finally showing up after I left." Janelle nodded. "Fair enough." But that night, alone in my apartment, I let myself feel it. The what-ifs, the maybes, the possibility that if he'd done this 6 months ago, we might still be together. Then I reminded myself I couldn't wait for someone to become the person I needed. I had to love myself enough to walk away when they weren't. And I did. 8 months after I left, I got a promotion, senior curator. It came with a significant raise, more responsibilities, and my own office. I celebrated with my friends, with my family, with the people who'd shown up for me when I needed them most. And I didn't tell Siajan, because he wasn't part of my life anymore. 1 year after I left, I almost saw him at a party. Tasha was turning 30 and she'd rented out this rooftop bar in Manhattan. It was packed with her friends, coworkers, old college buddies. I was standing near the bar, laughing with some guy named David I'd met a few weeks ago when I felt it. That shift in the air, the feeling you get when someone you used to know is nearby. I looked up and there he was. Across the room, staring at me. He looked different, thinner definitely, his hair was longer, less styled. He was wearing jeans and a simple black shirt instead of the designer suits I was used to, but it was more than that. There was something in his eyes, something quieter, less certain. Our eyes met. For a moment, everything else fell away. The music, the people, the party, it was just him and me and 2 years of history hanging between us. David said something next to me, touching my arm. I forced myself to look away from Siajan, to smile at David, to laugh at whatever he'd said. When I looked back, Siajan was gone. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, locked the door, leaned against the sink and tried to catch my breath. Seeing him had brought everything back. The good, the bad, the love I'd buried but never quite let go of. When I came back out, Tasha pulled me aside. "You okay?" "Yeah, why?" I saw him leave, I didn't know he'd be here. Peter brought him, I'm sorry. It's fine, it was bound to happen eventually. Did you talk to him? No. Do you want to? I thought about it. No, I said finally, I don't think I do. And I meant it. But that night, lying in bed, I let myself wonder, what would have happened if I'd walked over to him, if I'd said hi, if I'd asked how he was? Would he have begged me to take him back? Would he have told me he'd changed? Would I have believed him? I'd never know because I didn't go over, and he didn't come to me. Maybe that was answer enough. 18 months after I left, I heard through the grapevine that he'd done something no one expected. He'd set boundaries with his family. According to Peter, who seemed to have become the unofficial messenger of Siajan's life, he'd told his parents he needed space to figure out what he wanted, not what they wanted. That he was stepping back from some of his responsibilities, that he was focusing on his own life for once. It apparently hadn't gone over well, there'd been fights, his mother had stopped speaking to him for a month, his father had threatened to cut him off financially. But he'd stood firm. I didn't know what to do with that information. Part of me was proud of him, part of me was angry that it took losing me for him to find his backbone, and part of me wondered if any of it was real or if it was all just part of some grand gesture to prove he'd changed. I didn't reach out, I didn't comment, I just tucked the information away and kept living my life. 20 months after I left, I was genuinely happy. Not the performative kind of happy, not the I'm fine, everything's fine kind of happy, but actually deeply, contentedly happy. I loved my job, I had friends who showed up for me, I had hobbies I was passionate about. I'd even started seeing someone, a photographer named James, who was kind, present, and actually listened when I talked. It wasn't serious, not yet, but it was easy in a way my relationship with Siajan never had been. I thought about Siajan less and less. Days would go by without him crossing my mind, and when he did, it didn't hurt the way it used to. I was healing, finally. And then 2 years after I walked out of his penthouse, I ran into him. It was a Thursday morning in late October. I was at my favorite coffee shop in the West Village, the one with the good pour-over and the window seats where you can watch people walk by. I just ordered and was waiting for my coffee when I heard someone say my name. Kelly. I turned and there he was. Yoon Siajan, the man I'd loved, the man I'd left, standing 3 feet away from me with his own coffee in his hand. Siajan, I said, my heart suddenly pounding. We stood there for a moment, neither of us knowing what to say. He looked good, healthier than the last time I'd seen him at Tasha's party. His hair was even longer now, almost touching his collar. He was wearing a hoodie and jeans. I'd never seen him look so normal. It's good to see you, he said quietly. You too. Awkward silence. Are you here alone, he asked. Yeah, just grabbing coffee before work. Do you have a minute, can we talk? Every instinct told me to say no, to grab my coffee and leave, to protect myself from whatever this was. But I found myself saying okay. We sat at a table by the window. My coffee came and I wrapped my hands around it, needing something to hold onto. How are you, he asked. I'm good, really good actually. I'm glad, and he looked like he meant it. What about you? I've been working on myself. I heard. He smiled a little. The New York social circle is small. It is. Silence again, but it felt different than before, less hostile, just uncertain. I'm not here to ask you to take me back, he said suddenly. I want you to know that. Okay. I just saw you and I realized I never really apologized, not properly. You don't have to. Yes, I do. He leaned forward, his elbows on the table, his hands clasped. Kelly, I was a terrible partner to you. I took you for granted, made you feel like you didn't matter, and when you told me what you needed, I didn't listen. I didn't even try. I didn't say anything, just listened. When you left, I was angry at first. I thought you were overreacting, that you'd come back, but you didn't, and I had to sit with the fact that I'd lost you, that I'd driven you away, and it broke me. His voice cracked on those last words. I started therapy because I didn't know what else to do. I was miserable, working 18-hour days, drinking too much, not sleeping, and my therapist asked me why I was so afraid of being alone with myself. He laughed bitterly. I didn't have an answer, so we started digging. Into my childhood, the pressure I'd been under my whole life. Into the fact that I'd built my entire identity around being what other people needed me to be. Siajan. I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me, he said quickly. I'm telling you because I want you to know that losing you was the wake-up call I needed, and I'm sorry it took that. I'm sorry I didn't listen when you were right there telling me what you needed. I felt tears prick my eyes. Why are you telling me this now? Because you deserved better, and I want you to know that I get that now. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago, and whether we ever speak again after this, I needed you to know that you weren't wrong about any of it. I wiped my eyes. I never thought I was wrong, I just thought I wasn't enough. You were always enough, I was the one who wasn't. We sat there, the morning light filtering through the window, and I felt something release in my chest. Something I'd been holding onto without realizing it. Are you happy now? I asked. I'm getting there, he said. I set boundaries with my family, stepped back from some of my responsibilities, started actually living my life instead of just performing it. That's good, I'm proud of you. Thank you, he hesitated. Can I ask you something? Yeah. Are you seeing anyone? I thought about lying, but there was no point. Kind of, it's new. He nodded and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Sadness maybe, but also acceptance. I hope he treats you better than I did. He does. Good. We finished our coffee, talked about small things, my job, his life, the changes in the neighborhood. It was strange talking to him like this, like we were old friends instead of former lovers. When we stood to leave, he walked me to the subway. Can I call you sometime? He asked, just to catch up, no pressure, no expectations. I hesitated. Every rational part of my brain told me to say no, to keep the boundary firm, to not let him back in even as a friend. But I looked at him and I saw someone different, humbler, and someone who'd done the work. Yeah, I said finally, you can call. His face lit up, thank you. But Siajan. Yes. I walked down the subway steps and when I looked back, he was still standing there watching me go. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt like maybe we could both finally move forward. Not together, not yet, maybe not ever. But as people who'd learned from their mistakes, who'd grown, who'd chosen themselves when they needed to. 3 days later he called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Hey, he said. Hey. Is this a good time? Yeah, I'm just cooking dinner. What are you making? And just like that we fell into conversation, easy, natural like we used to. We talked for an hour about nothing important, about a movie he'd seen, about an exhibition at my museum, about the weather. When we hung up, I realized I was smiling. He called again the following week, and the week after that. We met for coffee once, then dinner, just as friends, testing the waters, seeing if we could be in each other's lives without falling back into old patterns. It was different this time. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He didn't check his phone, he didn't cancel plans, he showed up. I kept my guard up. I wasn't going to fall back into the same trap, but I also couldn't deny that it felt good to talk to him, to see the version of him I'd always known was there finally showing up. 2.5 years after I left, he asked me to meet him at the coffee shop where we'd run into each other. I went curious. He was already there, sitting at our table by the window. He stood when I walked in. Thanks for coming, he said. Of course, what's going on? We sat down and he took a breath. I've been thinking a lot about us, about what happened, about who I was and who I am now. My heart started racing. Siajan. I'm not asking you to get back together, he said quickly. That's not what this is. I wanted you to know that you changed my life. Losing you was the worst thing that ever happened to me, but it was also the best thing, because it forced me to become the person I should have been all along. I'm glad you found yourself, I said carefully. I did, and I know it's too late for us. I know you've moved on, but if there's any part of you that still cares, that still wonders what could have been if I'd done things differently, I just want you to know that I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. I looked at him, at the sincerity in his eyes, and I felt my carefully constructed walls start to crack. I don't know what you want me to say, I whispered. I don't want you to say anything, I just needed you to know that I see you now, that I understand what I lost, that I'm not the same person who let you walk away." We sat in silence for a moment. Then I said I broke up with James. His eyes widened. "When?" "Last week." "Why?" "Because every time I was with him I kept comparing him to you, to the version of you I'm getting to know now, and it wasn't fair to him." "Kelly." "I'm not saying we should get back together," I said quickly. "I'm not there yet, I don't know if I'll ever be there. You hurt me, Siajan, deeply, and I can't just forget that because you've changed." "I know. But I'm not closing the door either. If you want to be in my life, you have to earn it. Every day, you have to show me that this isn't temporary, that you're not going to fall back into old patterns the moment things get hard." "I will," he said earnestly. "However long it takes, I'll prove it to you." "You say that now." "Kelly, I spent 2 years fighting for myself, learning who I am outside of my family's expectations, building a life I actually want to live. I'm not going back to who I was. I can't. That person almost destroyed me." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. "Then prove it," I said, "not with words, with actions. Show me that you mean it." "I will." And slowly, over the next few months, he did. He showed up for coffee dates and didn't check his phone once. He came to my museum exhibitions and asked thoughtful questions. He introduced me to his therapist, not to show me he was going, but to show me he was serious about his growth. He set boundaries with his family and held them even when it was hard. His mother called him during one of our dinners and he let it go to voicemail. "Don't you need to take that?" I asked. "No, I'm here with you, she can wait." Those words, "she can wait," meant more to me than any grand gesture could have. He didn't pressure me, didn't push for more than I was ready to give. He just showed up, consistently, patiently, proving with every action that he meant what he said. And slowly, carefully, I let myself trust him again. 3 years after I walked out, we had our first real date, not as old lovers trying to reconnect, but as two people who'd grown and changed and were choosing each other with open eyes. He took me to dinner at that restaurant I'd wanted to try for my birthday all those years ago, the one he'd missed. "I'm 3 years late," he said, handing me a single peony, "but I'm here now." I took the flower and felt tears sting my eyes. "You're here now." We had dinner, we talked, we laughed, and for the first time in years it felt right, not forced, not weighted down by the past, just right. At the end of the night he walked me home. "Can I see you again?" he asked at my door. "Yeah," I said, "I'd like that." He smiled, then hesitantly he leaned in and kissed me, soft, gentle, full of promise. When he pulled away I said, "I'm still scared." "I know. I'm scared you'll go back to who you were, that this won't last." "I'm scared too," he admitted. "I'm scared I'll mess this up again, but Kelly, I love you, I've always loved you, and I'm willing to be scared if it means I get another chance with you." I looked at him, at the man who'd broken my heart and then spent 2 years putting himself back together. "Okay," I said, "let's try." We started dating again, slowly, carefully, with both of us hyper-aware of the mistakes we'd made before. It wasn't perfect, we still had hard conversations, still had moments where old wounds resurfaced, but the difference was this time he stayed, he listened, he didn't run when things got difficult. And I learned to trust him again, not blindly, but with eyes wide open, choosing him every day the way he was finally choosing me. 6 months into our second chance, he asked me to move in with him. "Not to the penthouse," he said quickly. "I sold that, too many bad memories. I bought a brownstone in Brooklyn, something we could make ours." "Ours? If you want it to be." I thought about it, about how far we'd both come, about the person he'd become and the person I'd never stopped being. "Yeah," I said, "I want it to be." We moved in together, built a life that was equal, where both of us showed up, where both of us tried. It wasn't the fairy tale I'd imagined when we first met. It was better, because it was real, built on honesty and growth and the understanding that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice you make every single day. 4 years after I walked out, he asked me to marry him. We were sitting on our balcony watching the sunset over Brooklyn when he turned to me and said, "I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that you made the right choice. Will you marry me?" I looked at the ring, simple, elegant, perfect, and then at him. Yes, I said, but only if you promise to keep showing up. Every single day, he said, for the rest of my life. And he has. Because love isn't about grand gestures or perfect timing, it's about showing up even when it's hard. It's about choosing each other again and again. I walked away because I had to, because I loved myself enough to know I deserved better. And he fought alone for 2 years because he needed to, because he had to become the man I needed him to be, not for me, but for himself. In the end, we both won. Not because we got back together, but because we both became the people we were meant to be. And sometimes that's the greatest love story of all. In the end, Kelly learned that walking away wasn't giving up, it was choosing herself. And Siajan learned that love isn't about promising to change, it's about actually doing the work even when no one's watching. They both became the people they needed to be, not for each other, but for themselves. And when they finally came back together, it wasn't because she waited for him to be ready. It was because he showed up every single day, proving that he meant every word. Because real love isn't about who fights harder, it's about who shows up when it matters. Some people will hear this story and ask, should she have taken him back? But that's not the right question. The right question is, did he earn it? And the answer is yes, because he didn't just say sorry, he became sorry. He rebuilt himself from the ground up, set boundaries with his family, went to therapy, and chose growth over comfort. That's the kind of change that matters. So if you're in a relationship where you're the only one trying, where you're exhausting yourself for someone who can't meet you halfway, this is your sign. Choose yourself, walk away if you have to, because the right person won't make you beg for their effort. And if they really love you, they'll do the work, not to win you back, but because they finally understand what they lost. If this story hit home, do me a favor. Hit that like button so I know you felt this. Comment below and tell me, Team Kelly or Team Siajan, would you have given him a second chance? Subscribe and turn on notifications because we post real, raw, emotional stories like this every day.